Well, good morning and welcome to the show. Jeff Beals at your service from NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate. We're also brought to you by D&M Roofing, Omaha's premier commercial and residential roofing contractor. Without any further ado, it's time to bring on my co-host, the legendary real estate deal maker himself, Trenton Magid.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Mr. Beals.
Good morning, Trenton. Have you watched the Brad Williams February construction update video?
A couple of times. There's like 20 different topics on there.
Yeah, I've watched it more than once too. In fact, sometimes I'll even go backwards because I want to see one of the clips a little bit more.
And you can see that on the YouTube channel, the Grow Omaha YouTube channel, and also on growomaha.com on our website. And
if you do the website option, just once you get to growomaha.com, go to the navigation bar, click on shows. There'll be a drop-down menu, and then you can click on the construction update, and then that page will have the February update as well as all of the previous ones. And then Brad Williams, you guys know him. He comes on the show periodically, renowned photographer, videographer here in Omaha. So you're going to love watching that. Hey, in a little bit, we're going to bring on Mayor Jean Stothert. We're going to talk to her about all of this crazy amount of development that has been announced and underway in the urban core. We're really going to focus on the urban core, the Mutual Tower, the streetcar, growth in Midtown, downtown, all of that sort of stuff. So be excited for that. But first, we have our development news of the week, which is brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, EagleMortgageCompany.com. They know mortgages, and it's a good thing because the housing market is going to be a crazy one, it looks like, again this spring. And so if you are thinking about buying a new house, go to Eagle Mortgage now. And when you get there, you're going to want to talk to them about getting a pre-approval letter because it could be almost certainly will be very competitive again this year. Doesn't matter whether it's an FHA, VA, or a conventional loan. They'll help you with all of that. You can find them in person, 114th and Davenport, or online at EagleMortgageCompany.com. Well, Trenton, the long-anticipated 120th Street widening project north of Maple is open, and so a lot of people who are up in that area, very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait till 168th between Center and Pacific open up. That's the one I'm waiting for.
Yeah, for you and me.
Been a long time coming.
Where our houses are located, that one will affect us a little bit more. But I have to make a confession though, and you are going to be ashamed of me.
Never.
And you want to know what the confession is?
What's that?
I haven't driven on the new 120th Street extension yet. You
didn't have to. You saw it on the Brad Williams construction up there.
True, but I have this history for which you like to make fun of going on
Nothing
new
like
roads.
new pavement for Jeff Beals.
I like to go on a newly opened highway or road the first day or two that it's open. In fact, remember when the elevated Dodge Expressway opened?
Yeah, you and I got on there.
You and I were
in line.
Yeah, we were so early that the dust from the construction from cars driving on the first time almost made it blinding.
I think they had to take down the barrier or something for us. It was that early.
They had like a ribbon cutting thing, and then there were some historic cars that went on it, and then it was pretty much you and me.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should admit that in public, but at any rate, we just did.
It's entertainment.
Hey, really cool project in Elkhorn. Elkhorn Station and Elkhorn Landing. These are two mixed-use buildings. They're coming to Elkhorn's downtown district. And the almost completed Elkhorn Station is a 4-story building with street-level retail, 90 apartments. It's right at 2606 Main Street. That's in the old downtown Elkhorn. And then if you kind of go catty-corner a little bit, sort of to the west of Main Street, about a block on Elkhorn Drive, you have Elkhorn Landing. And this is going to be 2 3-story buildings. You're going to have condos and apartments, basement parking. So this continues that trend of Old Town Elkhorn becoming more and more walkable, and
shopping, restaurants are great.
Well, yeah, it's really becoming this nice entertainment center. So, all right, the other thing we wanted to talk about today is Nebraska is the number 9 best state for franchise growth in 2022. This is according to a report published by the International Franchise Association. So, and we've talked about franchising before. FranNet of the Heartland is one of our newsletter sponsors. And
they do a great job.
And we know that franchises are a great option for a lot of people who want to become entrepreneurs. But get a load of this. According to the report, Nebraska has 5,850 franchise businesses. employing 58,000 people. And all of those franchises generate $5.46 billion per year.
I believe it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's more.
And that's your news of the week, brought to you by Eagle Mortgage, eaglemortgagecompany.com. Short news today because we are going to bring on, right after the break, Mayor Jean Stothert. We're going to talk about so much development activity in the urban core. You don't want to miss any of this. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton on Grow Omaha, brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge. Back in a moment on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beal sitting next to Trenton Maggot. The show's brought to you by D&M Roofing and NAI NP Dodge Commercial Real Estate. And we are excited to bring on Mayor Jean Stothert. We love having her in the studio with us just to talk about all of the things going on in Omaha. But today, with the mayor, we're going to focus on the urban core, for a lot of good reasons. But first of all, Mayor, welcome back.
Thank you. You just reminded me it's been a year since I've been on this show, so that's too long.
I know. We would much rather have you way more frequently, but I think with schedules, all of a sudden, next thing you know, a whole year has gone by.
But we have a lot to talk about. We have to jam a year's worth of stuff in today, so there's lots going on.
Well, let's have you on this summer so we don't have to wait so long.
There we go. Because we'll have a lot of updates this summer.
So given all that, you've been busy lately?
Oh, yeah. We've been so busy, and there's so many good things that we've been talking about. But, you know, when we want to concentrate on the urban core, I think, this morning. And the urban core is an area that we defined several years ago, and it basically runs Cumming to Leavenworth and then 10th Street all the way to Saddle Creek. So that's defined as our urban core. And we had the Urban Core Committee that was developed, and we gave them a task of looking at all things related to urban core. So that would be business, that would be infrastructure, roads, walkability, residential, all of those things. And to make sure that what was happening down there was all coordinated and worked together. And so we were more than thrilled to be able to announce just recently the plan to build Mutual of Omaha's new tower downtown at the Dale Clark Library site, and that to move forward with the modern streetcar. And so that is just that was a recommendation out of this Urban Core Committee, the streetcar was. But Mutual of Omaha is something that we've been working on for some time. And so exciting to talk about that. But I just want to mention right off the bat that when we talk about why now for the streetcar, I know a lot of people are saying you've been talking about it for years. I remember I talked about it when I first ran for mayor. Why now? But when you look at all of this going on downtown, I kind of look at it as there's two bookends. You know, going on with the riverfront and the Luminarium on the east side, that's a $400 million project. And then you go all the way to UNMC to Project Next, which is a $2.5 billion project. And then you look at everything in between. And those are the two bookends. But you look at the Mercantile, which is ConAgra's, that's $500 million. Millwork is $300 million north of the ballpark. You look at the Blackstone, the Capital District was $200 million. Civic Auditorium site, that's going to be a $150 million project. All of those things in between those two bookends, this is what the streetcar is going to connect. And that's why it's so important now, because I think we all know that parking downtown is choking development. And if these things continue and we want all of these to work together and be successful, that streetcar is critical.
And it's free to the riders.
Yeah, to the riders. It's going to cost a lot to build it, that's for sure, and to operate and maintain it. But the way it works is it's free for the riders. And so the one thing I said many years ago is that, and remember when I ran for my second term, that was a big issue, the streetcar. And at that time, the roads were just exploding. They were in terrible condition. That winter of 19 was terrible. And I said two things, basically. And one is we got to fix our roads first. You can't build a streetcar on a roads full of potholes. Got to fix the streets first. And secondly, I don't want to raise taxes to pay for it. So if somebody could give me a finance plan on how to pay for this streetcar without raising taxes, I'm in, because I understood the value all along. And so we did pass, in the May of 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, a $200 million street bond issue. And I think people see the work going on everywhere.
We're seeing the results of that. And
yes.
I don't see a lot of potholes, I can tell you that.
Well, we've had a mild winter last year, and so far, knock on wood, but we're doing twice as much road work now as we did before. And the Urban Core Committee presented a plan to me of how to finance the streetcar without raising taxes. And so now is the time to do it. And then with the new Mutual of Omaha building, they were looking at multiple sites. And they're going to stay in Omaha. And what a good community partner they are. But we thought that's where they belonged, right at the end of that new Jean Leahy Mall. That's going to be the Omaha skyline now and in the future. And they were looking at the old Wall Street Tower site or the old UP site downtown. They were looking at that site, but they needed the streetcar. You know, they have 4,000 employees. They were going to build about a 2,500 car garage, but they needed the streetcar to move people in and out if they were going to be downtown. And they asked us, could you do another loop of the streetcar and bring it around where that UP site was? And after we really got to thinking about it, it was two of my two deputy chief of staff, Kevin Anderson and Troy Anderson, both came up with, well, why don't we bring the streetcar to Mutual and do it by putting Mutual where the Dale Clark Library is, where that streetcar was already going to be. And we thought, what a fantastic idea. So we presented that idea to them, and they loved it.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I want to come back to the building itself, because that's pretty exciting. But let's stay on the streetcar issue, Mayor, and can you give us a brief overview, without getting too far in the weeds on it, how the financing will happen with that unique, or at least unique to Omaha, financing system that is going to be proposed and hopefully approved?
Right, and it is unique, but it does work. And, you know, right now there's about 46 U.S. cities that are currently planning or already have streetcars. And research shows that in every community with a streetcar, development has outperformed the estimates. And so we know that there will be a lot of development that will happen along that streetcar line, which we look at as 3 blocks either side of where the rails will be. And so what we have come up with as far as a funding plan is, one, using TIF, tax increment financing, and there's 3 different types of TIF. So with existing TIF projects, and those are TIF projects within 3 blocks of the rails that have already been approved and are already moving forward right now, we are going to expand that repayment of that TIF note from 15 years to 20 years. We can do that. And we could do that in areas that are already deemed extremely blighted. And that was changed in state law, a constitutional change, several years ago. And with doing that, expanding that from 15 to 20 years, we can capture that additional funding, and that should bring in about $50 million. The second type of TIF would be new TIF projects, and that would include Mutual of Omaha as a new TIF project. They wouldn't have this TIF note expanded, but they would be new. And any new TIF projects within 3 blocks of the rails, they would donate 25% of their TIF proceeds to the streetcar. That should bring in about $218 million. And then the third is a TIF district, and that is basically capturing the increased value of properties within the 3-block area of those rails, and that should bring in about $86 million. So you add those up together, that TIF is expected to generate about $350 million. The cost of the streetcar, we're using the cost, we're talking a cost of $306 million, so that's less than the $350, but that has a 35% contingency, which is huge. So the actual cost of the streetcar is about $225 million. So the actual cost of construction, $225 million. The 3 TIF districts should bring in $350 million. So that's more than to pay for the construction.
And for the operation of it?
And the operation and maintenance is another thing. And what we will use is what we would consider, or we talk about, is our total mobility plan. And this streetcar will be the next phase of that. And a total mobility plan is a combination of streetcar, bus, BRT, cars, pedestrians, scooters, bikes, all those things together. But the point is this whole system will provide free and easy mobility in, out, and around our urban core. But to pay for the operation and maintenance, that total mobility system will pay for it. And what we can do with those extra TIF dollars is we will pay off our garages, our parking garages, because we have debt service to that. And then the revenue that comes from our parking garages and our meters will go to pay for the operation and maintenance. So it's all part of that mobility system, and we would include our garages and our parking meters in part of that system. But when we pay the debt off, the annual revenue that we make from that system, particularly the garages and the meters, will pay for operation and maintenance.
And if you want proof that these things work, you can look at the line in Kansas City, which doesn't even connect as many exciting venues as the Omaha one will. And then the other item of proof I present to people would be the BRT on Dodge.
Yes.
I mean, the BRT is not rails in the concrete.
Bus rapid transit.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, if you look at it, the number of 5-story buildings that are popping up along the Dodge corridor because of that is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. And you know, people say, well, nobody rides at BRT. I hear that all the time. And that's really not true. Now, with COVID, we did have a real downtick on our buses, on the BRT, on our airplanes at our airport. You know, you're not going to shut the our airport down because of COVID, that people weren't flying as much. But it's picking up, and it's performing more than they expected it to, actually, the BRT. So that is picking up, too. So it's just part of that total mobility system that we think is so critical for downtown and urban core development.
What I think is neat about the streetcar, too, is that there's so many employees of Mutual of Omaha that live around their current campus, and they can take the streetcar to the new building.
Yes.
And then also that huge area that's going to be repurposed and redeveloped, some of those buildings will likely be reused. That opens up huge opportunities for other businesses and other opportunities for residential and commercial.
And that's on the streetcar line, too. And that's why I say Mutual is such a good community partner, because the one thing I was worried about, if they moved, what would happen to Midtown.
Yeah.
Because they are Midtown, and you know, they want to repurpose those buildings. They have interested parties in those buildings already, and they're going to make sure that Midtown stays lively too. So it's just a great thing that all this is happening, and we could announce it together.
Jean, one more thing about the streetcar. It's kind of a two-part question. The timeline, what needs to play out between now and when we actually have people riding these things? Mm-hmm. And number two, can you give us an idea about support on the city council or how that process would work? Because we have to make sure, obviously, it goes through the city council and that we have a favorable vote.
Yes, absolutely. And it has to go not only through the city council, but the planning board. And so there's a lot. We have established a timeline. And basically the timeline for the streetcar is design would be in 22 and 23. So that's this year and next year. Construction 23 to 25. And plan to be open in 2026.
Okay.
And that is when the plan for Mutual, their new building, to be open in 2026. So it kind of all is happening at the same time. But it's an aggressive plan, but that's what it is. I have briefed the council myself. The council is supportive of it. Of course, they want to know more of the details, and as we know the details, we will give them all the details. But it's pretty aggressive. So February 16th, which is already passed, the TIF committee, March 2nd, should go to the planning board. This is the redevelopment plans for the streetcar. In March would be the first reading for the redevelopment plans with the city council. They'll have a public hearing in April, and all those things will be available, and public will know the exact dates. The first reading for the redevelopment agreement and operating agreement would be in April, and then the city council would have a public hearing in May. And then May 10th should be a vote. And that's primary election day, May 10th.
Wow.
What do you know?
That's fast.
Lots of voting going on that day. But, you know, I mean, it'll have to move very quickly, because one thing is ordering the streetcars themselves. And ordering those, it takes about 2 years for those to come in. So, and the other thing is that I think is important here is, so we talk about these proceeds from TIF. Well, these come in over years and years and years. You know, the development hasn't occurred yet. We know it will. So the big question is, how do we get the money right now for construction, and how do we not have the taxpayers pay for it? So it will be a combination of what we would call special revenue bonds and private placement bonds. And the thing with private placement bonds is there is definitely a market locally and nationally for them. And the thing about these is the buyers of the bonds assume the risk, not the city. So people say to me, well, wonder if that development doesn't happen around the streetcar line. The bonds that we are using to construct it doesn't go back on the taxpayers. It goes back on who buys the private placement bonds. And so there's a lot of private investors that will buy these bonds. So it doesn't go back on the city of Omaha. And that's why this plan will work without raising taxes.
All right. Well, let's talk about the skyscraper, because what Trent and I always like to say, and half jokingly but mostly serious, the biggest piece of red meat that Grow Omaha listeners want to eat are new skyscrapers. Mm-hmm. But they don't happen every day.
No, they don't.
So Mutual CEO James Blackledge and you did that press conference together, and we know that it's going to be a very, very tall building. but people are dying to know. Do we have any insight just how tall that thing might be and when Mutual might let us know?
Yeah, and they had that preliminary design that they showed, and I would say it's around 45 to 50-story building. It could be taller than the First National Bank building. Their floor plate is taller than First National's because the HVAC systems are different than they will be for First National's. They're under the floor, so the floor
air
plates,
conditioning, ventilation,
are different than they were before. So it could have less stories but still be taller. So the plan isn't to be, I will have a taller building than First National Bank. That's not the plan. But the plan is to build a building that is going to work for Mutual of Omaha now and into the future. Now, their plan, and people have asked this a lot too, it isn't to lease out part of that building or have tenants. That building will be all of Mutual of Omaha. And they are still, we are planning on developing the block east of where the Dale Clark Library site is, which is now part of the Jean Leahy Mall, because the Jean Leahy Mall will go all the way down to the river and take in, Heartland of America Park. So
that's where a lot of the construction equipment is.
Where all the construction equipment is now, and where will be a staging area when Mutual builds. But Mutual may even look at that area east of there in the future for expansion, and so there's a lot of potential in that area, but they don't know exactly what the height of that building will be. But I will tell you, it'll look like the renderings that we have seen. And when we see a picture of Omaha in the future after 2026, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see that beautiful new Jean Leahy Mall, and then you're going to see this big new skyscraper there. And you're going to see the name Omaha right there, which I think is great.
Yeah, a convenient name of a company for that building.
And
absolutely.
And the tallest building right now,
First National
Bank is 40 stories of occupied space, and then 45 stories with all the mechanical on top of it.
Inside the crown. Well, we're only getting started. We have a whole bunch of other questions we want to ask the mayor, and so stay with us. We're going to take our middle of the show break for the news. Then when we come back, we're going to talk with Mayor Stothert about the timeline with moving the library and getting construction started for the Mutual Tower and other downtown and urban core issues. So this is going to be fun. Stay with us. You're listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by NAI, NP Dodge, and D&M Roofing on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. This is Jeff Beal sitting next to my friend Trenton Magid. We represent NAI, NP Dodge, commercial real estate company. We're also brought to you by D&M Roofing. You know those guys. It's Eric Obrumpt and his team that do such a great job with both commercial and residential roofs. So we want to give you real fast the Commercial Real Estate Development Spotlight of the Week, which is brought to you by Noddle Companies. Noddle Companies is one of the premier commercial real estate developers in this part of the United States. And they are doing so many projects in Omaha, whether it's the medical campus by Village Point, Exarban Village, River's Edge, Steel Ridge, Builders District, you name it. But today we're going to talk about Exarban Village, and we have a new retailer that will be opening in Exarban Village very soon. It is called Fleet Feet. Now I have to say that with great enunciation, Fleet Feet. And as the name would indicate, it is an athletic shoe retailer. It's going to be at 6750 Mercy Road in Exarban Village, 2,000 square feet, family-owned store that is part of a network of similar running fitness stores across the country. They don't all have that name, but Fleet Feet is going to Exarban. They also have an existing store in Omaha at 176th and West Center Road and one in Lincoln. And that is your development commercial real estate news spotlight of the week, brought to you by Noddle Companies. Hey, if you want to learn more about Noddle, just go to the website, noddlecompanies.com. All right, we have Mayor Jean Stothert with us, and we're talking about the urban core and projects that are happening down in the urban core area. And Mayor, we're very excited about that skyscraper and all that, but we've got to wait for construction to start until after the W. Dale Clark Library moves a few blocks to the south. Can you kind of give us an update about how that process is going and what needs to happen?
Sure. And, this is the first steps to relocate the Dale Clark Library we announced just at the end of November, and it's moving very, very quickly. And so, I have to say first, though, that The move implements recommendations for the Dale Clark that were made 10 years ago. This is nothing rushed. This is nothing that we're doing quickly without a lot of thought. In 2010 and then again in 2017, a consultant reviewed the Dale Clark Public Library, and they recommended to replace the Dale Clark. In their master plan, they described the Dale Clark as dated and inefficient and underutilized, and it was very costly to operate. So we knew we were going to move it anyway. But once the mall is done, the Jean Leahy Mall, we know that site for development is really, really important, and now we know it's going to be Mutual of Omaha. So anyway, we have to move very fast with this right now, and it's something that, again, we've been planning for quite a while. But we're going to put requests for bids out. They'll be issued in March for the demo of the Dale Clark Library. We want it to be demoed in September, and so that we can have it cleared by the end of the year. That site should be cleared by the end of the year. The work is progressing to design the new downtown branch to 1401 Jones, and the administrative offices then which are now located at the Dale Clark, will move to the old Shopco site at 84th and Frederick. And so that's where distribution and the administrative offices will be. Heritage Services, they are working with Margaret Sullivan who's a national library consultant, on public engagement, and they're working as far as the other library that we've been talking about at 72nd and Dodge. And so that's the one that Heritage is working on. But what Heritage is working on at 72nd and Dodge is not related to the Dale Clark. I mean, it's still our library system, our Omaha Public Library system, but they're not related.
That would be the main, though, at 72nd. They technically call it the main library.
They're actually not calling it the main. They're calling it the central, because it will be different than it was before, because central distribution for right now, will be at 84th and Frederick. Every material that is now at the Dale Clark will be available still for patrons to see, to use, to check out. All the materials that are there at the Dale Clark, as far as the daily things that people want to check out, they will move to 1401 Jones, but the main part of distribution will move to 84th and Frederick and the administrative offices, central distribution. So there isn't anything that's available at the Dale Clark now that won't be available in the future. It just will be in a different site, maybe temporarily. Now, with that 1401 Jones, it's a 10-year lease. We have an option of a 5-year out on it. It will be redesigned. It is exactly what this consultant that the library staff had hired in the past and studied and recommended. It's exactly what they wanted. They wanted 30,000 square feet. They wanted easy access to it. It's only a few blocks from where the Dale Clark is now. But we are still open as time goes on to looking to see if there's a better site, or maybe even build a brand new library downtown. But to get it moved now so Mutual could move on, this is just a perfect spot. And I have to say, we looked at almost every spot you could think of downtown. There isn't a lot that fits the needs of what that library consultant said in 2010 and 2017.
Plus the city can buy it if it turns out to be the perfect site. The city can exercise their option to purchase it.
Absolutely, we can. And the library staff is even telling us that even if we would build a brand new downtown library, they like the idea of moving to 1401 Jones for now to figure out what they do need and what the patrons say they need downtown. And this may be the perfect spot, or they may say, we feel like it needs to be in a little bit different location. So it gives us a lot more options. But the point is we want the continuation of services not to be disrupted at all. And that's why it's so important that we move along with this quickly, and so that there will still be use of a downtown library, that we won't have to close one down and not be able to open another one up soon.
Mayor, you talked a little bit ago about the unique plan of swapping the W. Dale Clark site with the Lanahaw-owned former Union Pacific headquarters site. So eventually, here pretty soon, the city's going to own that site.
We're going to own that site again. Here we go again with that site downtown,
site.
Right?
So what are we looking at long term for that site?
And that's we used to call it the old Wall Street Tower site, but it is the old UP site down there. Jason Lanahaw owns that property. He was working with Mutual. He was going to be their developer, and that's the site they were looking at first. But to make this all work, we felt like it would make a lot of sense just to do, since we own the Dale Clark site, to do a land swap. We will give them the Dale Clark Library site. We will take over that old UP site. We don't have a recent appraisal, but we are getting one now, and we feel like they will be very similar. Probably the Dale Clark would be worth a little bit more, but we'll see. They might be very similar in cost. So then we will get back that site, the old UP site, and we will do an RFP. And what we want is something down there, obviously, that'll bring in tax revenue. That'll bring in revenue for the city. So, somebody said to me, "We'll put a new police station there, or a fire station there, or a city, or a city." Then it's underutilizing that spot, because then you're not going to generate any revenue for the city. And so we're looking for something mixed use, or we're looking for something that is more of an office space down there that will bring in tax revenue and look beautiful.
Well, and that site's begging for a fairly tall to very tall building. Are there any companies out there, without saying names, that might still be interested in a decent sized tall building downtown?
Yes, there is. And
I love that answer.
Yes, and I think I mentioned before that we had about a half dozen interested in the Dale Clark site. A lot of those people that we have talked to, we're trying to see what they want to do still, and would they be interested in that site. And there is a lot of interest in that old UP site.
One of the things that Jeff and I have been waiting for, and we've talked about over the 18 years the show's been on the air, is a full-service grocery store downtown. Hy-Vee's been rumored to look at some buildings down there and stuff, but it'd be great to have a 50,000 or plus square foot grocery store down there. Are we ready for it, or do we still need to grow the population down there?
No, we're ready for it now. They always, and I can't even tell you what the exact formula is, but it's so many residential areas or so many residential spots that would then require a grocery store, and we have surpassed that now, because there's a lot of residential popping up all over downtown, as you know. And so we're ready for a downtown grocery store. And in some of these projects that we are looking at, they are looking at a downtown grocery store.
Civic Auditorium site would be great for that.
Civic Auditorium site is
and
one.
It's funny you say it, because we have less than a minute left, but I did want to throw the Civic site out there. Jean, what's the latest with that?
We have a plan. We announced that several months ago. White Lotus is doing that. It'll be mixed use. It'll be mostly residential. There will be some workforce housing there also, but it's a perfect spot for it with its proximity to Creighton and then also Central High. And so that's an odd spot. It's not downtown, but it does have easy access to get on and off. And so what we have planned for that area, I think, is just perfect right now. Plus, that garage is already there, too, the parking garage.
Which is a huge asset.
Which is a city-owned garage. That's 4 blocks square. That's a big site there. Yeah. And so the development, the plan, there's one corner of it, the southeast corner, that is still not really planned because they're looking at some sort of civic component there. But still, the plans are there and moving forward with that.
Very exciting. Well, this I wish we could keep going, but we're running out of time. So let's do this maybe in the summer. Have you come back for an update?
Yeah, maybe we could do it after the Jean Leahy Mall opens July 1st.
And
talk about all sorts of things happening around that area.
I just might talk to your staff and get that on the schedule.
Let's do it.
Okay.
All right.
Well, Mayor, thanks for joining us.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
We always appreciate.
Yeah, you bet.
Mayor Jean Stothert. Talking about Omaha Core. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it'll be the lightning round from Turner Construction. Lots of things to run by you. You're listening to Jeff and Trenton on News Radio 1110 KFAB. And welcome back to the show. Jeff Beals and Trenton Magid with you. This is Grow Omaha, and it's time for the lightning round, which is brought to you by Turner Construction. We love Turner Construction. They're doing all these big projects. In fact, just yesterday, I was driving on F Street between 144th and 156th, and if you look to the north, there's a big Verizon data center project. Turner is expanding that for Verizon. And of course, everyone knows that they have been doing the Sarpy County data center, a few $1 billion worth of data center down there. And at any rate, so we thank Turner Construction for supporting us. It is top-notch contractor, big projects, medium projects, and yes, even little projects. Those big guys can do a fantastic job of the small projects as well. They do it all. And we encourage you, if you are thinking about working for a construction company or hiring a contractor, to look no further than Turner Construction. All right, Trenton, a few things. Are you a big Teddy Roosevelt fan?
Huge.
Everyone loves Teddy Roosevelt, America's 26th president. Well, there is now a bar in the Field Club area named after him. It's called the Bull Moose. Of course, he had the Bull Moose party. It's in the former Noah's Bark building at 35th and Center, and they have beers on tap and specialty cocktails, the Bull Moose. Trenton, you know a little bit about this. The former Enterprise car rental / gas station building, 86th and Dodge, is gone.
Yeah, it was an Anderson gas station for many years, an Enterprise car rental. And now Lockwood Development is redeveloping it for Little King. It's going to be the state-of-the-art, new, modern Little King, not your father's Little King, but our Little King. And they're revitalizing that brand, which number 11, the Royal Treat. It's
the only thing you got. Yeah, that's the only option. You have to get the Royal Treat at Little King. It's king of Little King.
I'm excited for that, but I got to work with them on that, and so that was great.
Let's go there the day it opens.
Totally.
And celebrate. Willa Liquors. It's Will Liquors. Will Liquors. WILLIQUORS. Will Liquors. It is a wine, spirits, and beer superstore. It's out of Bismarck, North Dakota. They also have a location in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They're going to open up their third location just west of Village Point at around 178th Street. Going to be, I believe, new construction. The existing stores are 26 and 28,000 square feet, so this will be a real nice addition to that area. Village Point area has been on a roll lately as we've recently announced Warby Parker, Madewell, Sunglass Hut, and Restore Hyper Wellness. A little bit of sad news. Ozzy's Roadhouse is permanently closed at 127th and Westport Parkway in La Vista's Southport area. But we don't want to end on bad news, so we'll tell you 3 pieces of good news. Club Car Wash is now open at 108th and Maple. And then in the Old Market, hiring is now going on for the new Mouth of the South.
Very excited for Greg Cutchell and his team. Mouth of the South, the other one's by my house, 168th and West Center Road, the northwest corner. Great place.
Mouth of the South is outstanding. If you ever want to butter up Trenton, and this is a pun intended, if you ever want to butter up Trenton, bring him the bread pudding from Mouth of the South.
It's awesome.
And then Good Evans has opened at 1040 South 74th Plaza. Translated in English, that's 74th and Pacific. That's a former Pepper Jack's Bay. It opened on Wednesday, and I believe it's out of Kearney, Nebraska. They have Kearney and Lincoln locations heading into the Omaha location. They only do breakfast and lunch. It's one of those places. But if you look on their website, they say it's chef-inspired breakfast and lunch, or they bring an elevated menu to traditional breakfast and lunch offerings. I've heard good things about it. So,
and it's chef-inspired.
It's chef-inspired.
I think most food is probably chef-inspired.
Well, I'm gonna challenge you on that one. I've been to a few places that I don't think know how to spell the word chef. But at any rate, Good Evans, can't wait to try
Food
it.
prep.
Music's playing. We're out of here. I'm Jeff Beals.
And I'm Trenton Magid.
You've been listening to Grow Omaha, brought to you by NAI, NP Dodge, and D&M Roofing. We'll chat with you next week at 9 o'clock right here on News Radio 1110 KFAB. If you like this video, be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And remember, Grow Omaha is not just media. This is a mission. We are trying to build up Omaha and make it an even better place. We can only do that with your help. Share this video with your friends, neighbors, and family.